Chapter 10. On the Road to Damascus. After the death of Abigail, Saul is completely sad. He spent 3 days with his friends Zachariah and Ruth. They were reminiscing about the days with Abigail. He couldn't believe himself. He felt guilty for not coming any sooner. And then Emmanuel tells us about the many conflicts that Saul was having inside. So here we see a different Saul, someone who was not feeling victorious, someone that is losing day in, day out, everything that he had dreamed for. Why? Everywhere he looked around, he was thinking to himself. He saw Christ everywhere. It was like the Nazarene, as he said, was following him. Everywhere he turned, all he could see was Jesus with everyone. And mostly, he took his loved one. Not only that, but he recalled the fact that there was one man who was the instrument of this Jesus, Ananias. And he promised himself to strengthen the persecution movement. What did he do? He got all his men and said, "Go find where Ananias is, and he will be sacrificed for have dared to call and invite my loved one into this." Well, he was completely fascinated by his idea of dominating the world and making each and every Christ follower suffer for what they were doing to him. One day, one of the guards, one of the people related to him, got to know there was one man who actually knew and was imprisoned and knew about Ananias, Matthias. And then Emmanuel describes the most cruel tortures. And in that moment, by doing bitter tortures in this man, he got to know Ananias was in Damascus. So he said, "To Damascus we shall go." He prepared himself with 3 very loyal friends who were there to help him in his mission. He got a group of people at the synagogue that approved his measure to go and arrest Ananias with all possible measures. And he was on his way. But something very interesting happens. Emmanuel shows us that the shift that he's about to experience didn't come all of a sudden. It was the byproduct of an anguishing mind, of a very conflicted person. So here in this chapter, we're going to highlight that on the road to Damascus, we're going to find the fact that Saul actually detoured from his plan. How do we know it? Well, there are many signs in life that we can get, including in our lives, when we are derailed, when we are not right on track. Signs of life like Saul. He had conflicted feelings, guilt, shame, selfishness mixed with pride, fear of not being the best and the most loved one, and then not the most respected. He saw this competition everywhere. So he was having lots of signs that he was not like Jeziel, who had peace of mind, who could work and help people, consoling them, healing them. On the contrary, he was always waking up full of hatred, of competition in his mind. He wanted to go after the ones who were competing with him. Actually, he thought they were, but he was actually the one competing with them. So here are the signs that we have in our lives to show us what is happening to us. Signs like a thermometer for when we are detouring in our lives. The beauty of this chapter also shows us that when we are at our climax of conflicts, we're not abandoned. Saul was not abandoned either. How do we know it? We have in page 237 Emmanuel's own words when he said, secret powers were forcing Saul into profound self-examination. How often are we also called into self-examination? And we see in André Louis' books many examples of when we are detouring and the good and kind spirits, our guardian angels, our guides, our mentors, forcing us into the same self-examination. Why are you doing this? Why are you persecuting those people? Why do you want to compete with those? There is no need. Why that hatred? Why that need for revenge? Well, that happened to Saul until the very moment that in the highest moment of light of that day, at noontime, which is very also symbolic, representative of the climax of our darkness, comes the light of Jesus. And Emmanuel describes to us in this manner, Jesus came and light bathed his dazzled eyes, and he sees the figure of a man of a majestic beauty, giving him the impression that he's coming down out of heaven. It was then that he bent his knees, he fell from where he was traveling in, and then Jesus said, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And he was astonished. Who are you, Lord? So he recognized the presence when he said, Lord, unconsciously. And then he says, I am Jesus. It was then that the proud and unyielding doctor of the law bent to the ground in convulsive weeping, just like us, when we recognize that we are detoured. And then Jesus says to him, do not kick against the goads, saying, do not resist. Come. And not only that, but there are 6 moments in this dialogue. He says, Lord, what would you have me to do? And he says, get up, Saul. Just like us. When we recognize, let's get up. Let's not stay there in shame and guilt. Let's stand up as well. And he says, go into the city. You'll be told what to do. So he asks us to take action. That's what Jesus meant. He said, stand up. Don't cry. Don't feel guilt. Don't feel shame. Go there. But you won't be alone. The shift happened. What about us? So here we are to do this exercise. Our journey to Damascus. This is an actual picture of Damascus nowadays. The city of Damascus. Where is our city of Damascus inside of us? Where we do our shift. Like when Dyer's latest movie, The Shift. Let's think about it. What is happening in our lives now that are forcing us to this self-examination and to the major shift that we are all awaiting for? Let's prepare for chapter 11.